Hi, everyone, and welcome. My name is Marvin Jenkins, and I'm the coordinator for the Women's Business Center for Maryland Capital Enterprises. We're a nonprofit organization, and we assist entrepreneurs who are either starting a new business or looking to expand their existing business. We service the Eastern Shore of Maryland, plus Baltimore City, Baltimore County, Anne Arundel County, Calvert County, and Harford counties. We offer a lot of educational programs and workshops, one-on-one consulting and counseling, as well as business loan assistance. We have an office in Salisbury, and we also have one in Baltimore. Uh, now, as far as today's webinar, it will be recorded, and you'll probably get the email tomorrow with the link so that you can go back and revisit it. I will also put some information in there about how you can get in touch with us, uh, our website, and that type of information. So that'll be coming to you also. Uh, Thank you for joining us for today's MBE, DBE, and SBE workshop. And with that, I want to introduce Rosalind Davis. She's our expert in this field, and we really appreciate everything she does for us. She does so many of these for us. It's been really great working with her, and she offers a lot of good information. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Rosalind and get started.
Well, thank you very much, Marvin. I appreciate it. I always like to thank you and Lisa for offering this training platform so that we can get these Maryland businesses registered for the small business certification. Again, I am Rosalind Davis, President and CEO of Rhoda Business Solutions, where we specialize in organizational assessments, business process improvement, change management, strategic planning, but we also do workforce development as well, where we'll do executive and employee coaching, personality assessments, and we offer basic administrative support as well. So today's workshop is part one of a two-part training workshop, and this is on the Maryland Department of Transportation certifications. If any time you have any questions, please feel free to raise your hand. Marvin will see your hand, or you can put your questions in the chat. Periodically, I will pause to see if there are any questions. So please feel free to stop at any time and ask your questions. Don't feel like you have to wait until the end to ask your questions. Before we get started into the webinar, I also want to let you know that the views and opinions that you will hear today are the views and opinion of my own, and they are no way the views and opinions of the Maryland Capital Enterprise, Maryland Department of Transportation, or any other government or commercial entity. All right, with that, we'll get started. So here's our agenda for today. We're going to go through the application process. Again, this is a two-part, where the first part, we're going to focus on the questions that are considered what they're going to ask you a series of questions. And then part two is going to focus on the documents that they're requesting to support your answers to those questions. We're going to determine eligibility. We're going to show you what it takes to be eligible for the certification. We're going to go briefly into required information and documents. We're going to go deep dive into the certification application, and we're going to talk about each of these sections as well, and then do a brief overview of the document list that will be covered in more detail in part two, which is next Tuesday. So for the purpose of this training workshop, we're going to assume that everyone here is a new applicant. So we're going to walk you through the steps of how do you apply as a new applicant for the Maryland Department of Transportation MBE, Minority Business Enterprise, DBE, Disadvantaged Business Enterprise, ACDBE, which is the Airport Concession DBE, and then the SBE, which is a Small Business Enterprise. Again, you are a new applicant to the Maryland Department of Transportation certification, so you want to create an account as shown here on the screen. So the first thing you need to do is enter your tax ID. So that is your employee identification number that you register for your business through the IRS. Uh, so do a lookup and it will tell you whether or not you have started an application before. But for the purpose of this workshop, we're going to assume that you are a new applicant. So you would enter your tax ID number, do a lookup, and then I'll tell you that your business has not been found. So now they want you to enter your business information. Um, so you would enter your business name, and you want to make sure that this business name is the same one that you've registered with the Maryland Business Express, but also the same name that you've used for the IRS. And then you'll enter your company type. For this particular applicant, they were a limited liability corporation, but there's a drop down for other types of businesses. Uh, and then your company email, your phone number, and then the address. So those are the mandatory fields for this particular screen. And anytime you see the asterisk behind a field, that means that it is a mandatory entry. So continue with the account creation. You would enter the name, the email, and the phone number of the person who, if there's any questions regarding the application, that's who you would enter their information for. And then choose a password. Okay, here are the types of certification programs that are offered through the Maryland Department of Transportation: the MBE, the DBE, the ACDBE, and the SBE. So to determine which program and or programs you want to apply for, highly recommend that you click on the buttons below where it says MBE certification, DBE, and the SBE to determine if you're eligible for one and or more of these particular certification programs. And we're going to go in through details to help you determine if you should apply for one or more of the programs. So for the minority business enterprise or the MBE certification eligibility, highlighted here in red or circled in red is you must be the 51% owner of the socially or economically disadvantaged individual. You have to be in the protective class, and then your personal net worth cannot exceed 2.1 million adjusted annually. And we'll go into more details about the personal net worth and how you calculate that, because there are some things that, although they ask you to provide that information, it is not calculated in your net worth because we know most people have perhaps a 401k, or other type of retirement plans that they have been contributed to at this age. And so just that alone, you may have exceeded that, but there is a way that they do that calculation. Now for the disadvantaged business enterprise and the airport concession disadvantaged business enterprise, again, 51% ownership. You must be in a socially disadvantaged group, and it shows you those groups there. Now they have increased your personal net, or they decreased the personal net worth for that, and it's now just 2 million. Here recently, they have made a major change to the DBE and the ACDBE application. Now, if you declare that you want to apply for this certification, you also have to provide a social disadvantage narrative. And we'll cover that more in part 2 when we get to which documents you need to provide. And then the last one is the SBE, which is a small business enterprise. Again, that 51% ownership, and the personal net worth is staying at 2 million. So with that, Marvin, I'm going to pause to see if there's any questions.
Just one is that can you put the link of the web in the chat?
Link to the Mbe.Dbe certification.
I would assume that's what she means, yes.
Okay. I will do that. Give me a second. So they moved. Okay, I've done that.
That was it.
All right. So moving right along. Okay, so here are some of the required information and the documents. This list is not all inclusive, but it's kind of give you a general idea of some of the major documents that you will need in order to get through your application. So one, you will need the completed certificate application. So depending on your type of business, whether business structure, whether it's an LLC, sole proprietorship, or corporation, whatever it may be, you have to download that particular application and manually complete the application. You cannot edit the PDF form online. So you will have to complete that information by hand, and then you're going to upload it when it comes time for the documentation. You also have to submit a declaration of eligibility that says you are a MBE or a DBE. You no longer have to have that form notarized, but you do have to complete it and upload it. Proof of contribution, we'll go through more detail what qualifies as some of the examples of proof of contributions. We'll talk about your resume because there are specific things that need to be in the resume. Proof of citizenship, personal net worth. Again, we're going to go into a lot of detail about the personal net worth statement. Your business and personal tax returns. We'll talk about if you've only been in business 1 year and you do not have 3 years of business tax returns, how do you get around that requirement? And we're going to talk about bank statements, signature forms, equipment, and articles. So this is just a small list of the requirements for the application. Again, we're going to assume that you are a new application. So it says your firm is not currently certified by the Maryland Department of Transportation. You're going to select that your firm is located in Maryland, and then that you are seeking one or more of these certification, and submit a uniform application. So the uniform application allows you to apply for multiple certifications at one time, so you don't have to enter your information for each application. For instance, if you only want to do the MBE, then just click that. But if you want multiple, you're able to do that under the uniform application. We highly recommend that you do that so that you can receive your multiple certifications at one time. Here in the red box, again, this is a 4-step process. So the first step is the application. This is where you will submit your application. They'll do an investigation to review to make sure that all the information you entered is correct and that you have answered every question and or uploaded every document that responds to the questions. They're going to do an evaluation, a thorough evaluation to make sure that you are eligible and look a deeper dive into the information that you have submitted, and then they're going to do a determination. This whole process is now taking more than 6 months. So please keep that in mind as you apply for the certification if you intend to try to use it right away. It's not an overnight process. And here in red, it says applications without 100% of owners submitted will be returned. So you have to complete the entire application. Company and contact information. This should all be pre-populated from when you completed it at the beginning. And then you want to make sure that you check box or tick this box that says autofill so that you don't have to keep entering the same information over. So here's the basic criteria for eligibility. Again, we talked about that 51% ownership. Here's some additional questions. Are you a U.S. resident? Do you meet the small business standards as applied by the Small Business Administration? And so it gives you an example that you do not exceed 31 million in gross annual receipts. And then, is your firm organized as a for-profit business? So if you are a nonprofit, this doesn't apply for you. This is for-profit business. And then does your personal net worth exceed, in this particular instance, is 2 million, which is for the DBE application. Now, once you start your application, you have 90 days, and it will tell you in this particular screen, once you have started, it will give you the date in which you need to complete your application. If you don't complete it by that date, your application will be deleted and you will have to start over. So one thing I like to recommend is that you create a folder perhaps on your desktop and put all your documents in that folder so that, for one, before you start your application, you'll know what's required so that you're not losing days searching for information or waiting for someone to provide the information to you, such as perhaps your accountant, or just being able to, go and get your bank statement. So just keep in mind that 90-day window that you have to complete your application. So some mandatory documents. I kind of want to go over these just in general, but we're going to go into a detail in part 2 of the workshop. Your certificate of application, again, you have to print off that application, and you're going to have to handwrite the answers. They do not have a editable PDF. They just don't have it right now. And I can't even tell you that they're working on it. You also have to do your declaration of eligibility. You have to download the form, complete it, and then sign it and then upload it. Documented proof of contributions, resumes, proof of citizenship. We'll go through all of these mandatory. These are mandatory. You must submit these applications, submit these documents, if they apply. And your personal net worth, and going on down the line of these additional mandatory documents. And then there is a whole separate category of, if applicable, mean, do they apply to your business? And I will show you how you get around some of the documents if they don't apply to you. For instance, if you don't own an additional business, you would check that box. If you don't have any quarterly state unemployment, you would check that box. And then you would get down here to where you do a lock-in. And what they'll do for you is, now where it says not attached, it will say not applicable, meaning it's not looking for you to upload that particular document because you said it didn't apply. So that's one way that you could save time in completing your application. So whenever you want to see where you're at in your application, you can come back here. You can see your business name. It can show that the current status is incomplete because you have not completed all the sections or answered all the questions. And then it'll tell you again, what's your date that your application will be deleted if you don't complete it in time. This is a visual representation, again, to tell you where you're at in your application. So as you can see right now, this is the beginning of an application where everything is red, meaning you have not completed anything yet. After you complete a section, it will turn green. And so this is just a visual review for you to see where you're at in your application. One thing with the application is you can skip around and do things that you have right away. So you don't have to do it in sequential steps in order to get through the application. Okay. Now over here to the right is a visual, again, that tells you when things are mandatory, because you'll see the red. There's some things that may be optional, which will be in yellow. And then if you completed them, you'll see it in green. So any questions, Marvin, before I move on to the first section of the application?
None so far.
All right. So please indicate the certification type for your firm. Are you doing the DBE, the ACDBE? You can check both of those boxes, but it says if you go for the airport concession, you're going to have some additional information that you'll need to complete. But this is a required question. And then again, the contact person and the title, it should be the same as the person that you entered at the beginning, and legal name of the firm, phone number, and then there's those some optional things if you have a fax machine or another phone number. But again, that's that color coding. That red is mandatory, green means you have completed it, yellow is optional. So here's a visual representation that says you have just completed the basic contact information, because you can see it's now turned green and you still have all these red sections to complete. In this particular instance, we check the box that says you're going to apply for a disadvantaged business enterprise. And is the firm applying for the MBE as well? And are you also going to apply for the SBE? So in this instance, we're going to apply for all three because we want to do that uniform certification application to get all three of these certifications at one time versus separately. This particular applicant did not go for the airport concession, so they just clicked no. So indicate whether the firm or any persons listed have ever been, and it'll ask you these particular: denied, withdrawn, answer as applicable, and continue through your application. Here's another mandatory question. Give a concise description of your activities and product services that you provide. So just fill this in based on what your offerings are. And then your applicable, this is North American Industry Classification Codes, or NAICS codes, for the line of work that you do. So for instance, if you say you provide warehousing and logistics support, you can go and click select code, and it will help you determine what code applies to warehousing and logistics support, which I just happen to know it's the 541614. And then that code will be entered here. And if you have more than one NAICS codes for your business, then you just enter those additional ones in these optional fields. So you have to have at least one, but you can have more than one. Now, is your firm for profit? If you click no, then you will not be able to apply for the certification program. So you must be a for-profit business. Your tax ID should already be pre-populated because you have entered that before. Your type of legal business structure, again, you have to select what type of structure you are, and then the number of employees. Enter the 0 if you have no employees. But if you're the only full-time employee, you would enter 1 and then 0 for the rest of them, if that applies. So just include yourself. Now it asks for your firm's gross receipts for the last year. In this particular instance, this business started in 2022, so it went back the 5 years. And if you don't have any gross receipts of the applicant firm, meaning your firm, then you just put $1 just so you can get through the application. And if you don't have affiliate firms, meaning you don't have ownership in another firm, then it would just be 0. But you at least have to enter $1 to get through the application if you don't have any gross receipts at this time. I'm gonna pause right there, Marvin, and see if there's any questions.
No, none so far.
Okay. So other businesses, they want to know if you are applying for your business, but you also have ownership or management responsibilities in another business. So the first question, is your firm co-located at any of its business locations, or does it share a phone number, post office, with another business? So check the applicable box, and if you are shared, you would enter that information. Has any other firm had ownership interest in your company? So you would click the checkable box and move on to the next question. But all three of these, as you can see over here, are required questions because they are red. Again, with this page, all of these are required questions that you must answer yes or no. Moving on to section 3. So when you get to majority owner information, you have to click this button that says add the owner. And once you do that, if you are the owner, you would put in your first name, your last name, and all the applicable information that apply to you. And then it's going to ask the number of years as an owner. And then a percentage owned. Again, you have to be at least 51% owner of your business in order to apply for this certification. Class of stock owned. If you are a limited liability corporation, sole proprietor, you may not have that. So you just say not applicable. And date acquired. That is the date that you started your business. So enter that, just use the drop down to select the date in the calendar. Initial investment to acquire ownership interest in the firm. So if you made a cash investment, let's say $200 just so you can open up a business banking account, you would put that $200 here. Now, if you say it was $200, they're also going to look for a bank statement or a canceled check or something that shows that you have infused that $200 into your business when it comes to uploading documentation. So again, at the first half is asking you all these questions. The second half is asking you to show proof of those questions that you answered. And then describe how you acquired your business. Most people just says, I started the business myself. And then do you have any familiar relationship to other owners or employees? Again, mandatory questions, make sure you answer them as applicable. Does this owner own or work for any other firm? Again, you would answer that as applicable. The next question, on this particular screen, I want to highlight this question 4A. What is your personal net worth of the disadvantaged owner applying for certification? So I want everyone to write down this question 4A because you're going to need to come back and make sure that this personal net worth that you put here, if you put 0 or 500 or whatever that number is, it needs to match your personal net worth statement that you have to complete. And that is a document that has to be uploaded. The key point here is you want to make sure that the number that you put here matches the bottom line that you put on your personal net worth statement. I would say to get through your application, if you want to just put $1, but you have to remember to come back and make sure that it matched. Or you can just skip this question and come back and answer it. But it is a mandatory question. So duties of the owners, officers, directors, and other key personnel. Here's where make sure that, as this says, question number 1, sets the policy for the company. Number 2, bidding and estimating. Major purchasing. All of these questions right here, make sure that they're in your resume because they will look for that. So update your resume and just use this language, the same language that they use here in the application. Make sure that is in your resume. Now you could be, if you are the sets the policy, you do the bidding estimates, you can enter yourself as the person for each one of these questions. That's perfectly okay if you are the sole person that does all of those duties. Now, here's another visual where we have completed all those sections 1 through 4 through officers and board of directors. And you can see that it's now in green. We still have these sections to complete. Okay. Inventory. So indicate your firm's inventory equipment or vehicles. So it's looking for equipment. So this could be your laptop, your desktop, your printer, your business phone, things like that. Vehicles, it's looking for vehicles that are assigned to the business. For instance, if you have a box truck or some other type of vehicle that you use strictly for your business, that's what it's looking for. Your firm's office space, if you have no rented space, like you're not leasing a space, then you would put none. But if you do, you have to put the address, and if you're owned or leased it by your company. And then your storage space, if you have perhaps a warehouse or something, you would enter that address. Financial, does your firm rely on any other firm for management functions or employee payroll? So answer as applicable and move to the next question, your banking information, and then bonding. Bonding typically applies to companies that are in construction. So if that's not you, then no bonding currently in place would be your answer. But those are mandatory questions.
Rosalind, we do have one question now.
Okay, go ahead.
It said, if you just started your business and it has not been a year, how do you answer that question of how long have you been in business?
It's asking for years, so just put 1 year, and then when you go to upload documentation and everything, we'll go through how do you uh, when it asks for like 5 years of your business tax returns, how do you get around that requirement if you've only been in business for a year or less? Did that answer the question?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Licenses and contracts. So it wants you to list your current licenses or permits that are held by the owner or any other employee of your firm. For instance, if you have an engineer, if you have a master contractor, those are the types of licenses and permits that they're asking. If you have a license as a daycare facility owner, that's what they're asking for. And then it wants you to list your 3 largest contracts. If you don't have any contracts in the last 3 years, just check that box. Then it's going to ask for your largest active jobs on which you're currently working. If you don't have any at this time, check that box. If you do, fill in the information. So we're going to go through again the document list, and these are all documents that are mandatory. And we're not going to spend a lot of detail on them because in part 2 next week, we're going to go do a deep dive into each one of these documents so that you'll know how to complete them for your application. So here's again the list. Certification application. I want to harp on the fact that you have to download the application that applies to your business and manually fill it out. And then once it's done, you'll have to attach it. Declaration of eligibility, you have to download it and complete that declaration of eligibility and then attach it. Proof of contributions. So here's some examples. SDAT this is where you have registered your business with the state of Maryland and that you are in good standing. You can also do other forms of proof of contribution, like you invested $200 to start your business. You just again have to show that proof. And resumes, again, make sure that those questions that says who sets the policy, make sure you have updated your resume to show that. Another thing about your resume is if you said in the section that's describe the service and offerings that you offer to other businesses, if you say you provide warehousing support or if you're a daycare facility, make sure that's in your resume. So it needs to match what you say that you offer. It needs to be in your resume for sure. And then your proof of citizenship.
Got one
And then
question.
go ahead.
It says, where do I check what license do I need for my business?
So again, it's looking for licenses such as, I'm going back to that. Like if you are engineer, you're architect. So those are the licenses and permits that they're asking for. It depends on your industry. You should know whether or not you need a license or permit for your industry. Is there anything in particular that you're wondering about?
Engineering?
Then yes, engineering is one of them that you will need a license and permit as an engineer. So if applicable documents, here is a list of documents that if they apply to your business, you would upload those particular documents and then move on. Proof of good standing status with SStat. So for that one business owner that has been in business for less than a year, it depends on when you started that business. You may not have this. This is due by April 15th of every year, where we have to pay a fee to Maryland for the certificate of good standing. So if you started your business in June of last year, you're probably not going to have this certificate. And so you would just say not apply, would be an example. And then you would just go through the rest of these questions to see if these documents apply to you. So some key takeaways. One thing I forgot to mention at the beginning is applying for this Mbe.Dbe certification. It's free. I highly recommend that you take the time to complete the application yourself rather than pay someone, because you're essentially handing over all your documents to someone else just for them to upload them into the system and charge you a fee. Because if they have any questions, they're going to come back to you. So it is time consuming. There is a lot of information and documents that they ask for, but just take your time and go look at the entire application in its entirety, see what type of questions they're asking, see what type of documents they're asking for. And like I said, create a folder on your desktop and just start putting those documents in there so that you'll have them when you're ready to start your application, because you only get 90 days once you start. Consider completing the uniform certification application. So if you want to apply for your MBE, your DBE, SBE, do that under the multiple certifications so you don't have to apply for each one of those certifications separately. It is a 4-step process. It's taken anywhere to 6 months now to get through the review process. They do have a 30-minute cursory review. So after you complete your application, they're offering you a free 30-minute cursory review. And what they're going to do is just take a look at your application, make sure that you've answered all the questions, uploaded all the documents, and give you any feedback before they actually start their formal review. I highly recommend that you do that. One individual who took part of that 30-minute cursory review, she found that for her financial statements, she had to provide 3 months of financial statements where she had only provided one. So those are the types of information that can come back in that free 30-minute cursory review. Definitely take advantage of it. We went through the required information and documents. So those mandatory versus optional information and or documents. And then that personal net worth. That question 4A that asks for your personal net worth statement in dollars. But when you complete that personal net worth statement, you want to make sure those two numbers match, because if there's a mismatch, that is one way for your application to be held up. And then the Mbe.Dbe certification. Again, you have to download the application itself, which is probably about 19 pages, manually complete it, and then upload it. Okay, with that, I'm going to end this portion of the training workshop and just stand by for questions.
I have one more in the chat. It says, are the MBE or SBE certifications required or nice to have?
It depends on what's your purpose of being in business. They are set aside programs. So in Maryland, they set aside portions of the dollars towards small businesses. So, my personal opinion, they are good to have if you need it versus needing it and not having it. Because as you can see, it takes about 6 months to get the certification. There is an annual recertification, but it's not as intense as starting a new application. And the annual review is just making sure that all your information is still correct, that your address is still correct, that your personal net worth hasn't changed and exceeded the small business threshold, things like that. So it's not as intense on the annual recertification.
Anybody have any other questions? Feel free to unmute yourself and you can ask. I guess in line with that other one, it says, so these may assist with receiving grants or loans.
No, this is for certifications through contracting actions. This is not loans nor grants.
Anybody else have any questions?
Is it for bidding? It can assist in bidding on opportunities, especially where there's a set aside goal. Uh, if you look at a particular solicitation and it says that there is a MBE goal of 5%, then what they're saying is they have set aside the dollars allotted to that particular contract. 5% of it needs to go to a small business.
Uh,
I'm
Yes, it
looking
says,
through the chat, see if
are
I.
are the contracts only for state agencies?
So this is for Maryland Department of Transportation. So this is for Maryland solicitations. This is not the federal.
Anybody else have any questions?
Now, I want to also add on to the question about are the contracts only for state agencies? So this certification is for Maryland Department of Transportation agency contracts, but there is a reciprocity for the certifications. For instance, other states will accept the Maryland certifications that you have for their state. So if you have a business in Georgia, you don't have to reapply for their small business certification because they will have reciprocity with the state of Maryland. You just have to provide proof that you do hold that certification and that it is active and valid. And that's just one example. There's other states that has that reciprocity as well. All
Anybody
right.
else?
As Marvin mentioned, part two is next week, and that's where we're going to do a really deep dive into the documents.
And I'll make sure the recording for this one, and I'll make sure that it has, the information on how to, get up with me, plus uh, our website. And I'll also make sure that you get the registration for next week's. And unless anybody has any other questions, we'll see you next week.
All right. Stay
Thank-
warm, stay safe, everyone. Thank you for
Thank
attending
you.
today. You're
Thanks,
welcome.
Ralston.
Be
Thank
safe
you.
out there, Letitia.
I am.
Thank
Yeah.
Thank
you.
you.
Thanks,
All right.
everybody.
Bye.